Aha! Hold me hearties for yet another month of MonoGame and Open House. So we are back streaming our usual session where we're going to go through all the latest and greatest, what's new with MonoGame. And we got some, hey, I like to say really exciting news this month. It's sort of, I'm not sure how we're going to top this in December because there's a lot to show here and a lot incoming. And the team are working fiercely hard with everything we've got and trying to get you the latest and greatest what is MonoGame. Oh, bear with me. For some reason, we are also showing this on. Why is this not showing anything? Well, it wouldn't be another month if we didn't break something. But at least I've got a stream to actually show what's going on. So let's put that full screen. Right, but at least I can see what's going on. Oh, no, not that one. Need to add. All right. So why was that not showing before? I don't know. Which means that's going to break again later. But I can't see that now. Right. Okay. The curse continues. But anyway, so. Right. There we go. Good. I can see my screen. And we're live again. One of these days. So, we're here to start MonoGame, and we got so much to talk about, so much to show, and let's just dig into it. I'm flying solo, if you might notice, mainly because some of our members have had to step out. Others have currently got a lovely cough and a cold, so best not to throw them in front of a camera, and others are driving. So anyway, we've got all we need. We're getting on board and getting started. And, there's so much to talk about. It's hard to really understate this. So, again, we'll continue work on the 3.8.5 release. If you've been following us on the streams, you've seen the sheer amount of effort and work it's going into to make this next release possible. And we're fixing Vulkan and the other updates. DX12 will be right on the back of that. And as those who are very astutely aware, we have sort of teased out some new bits now from the latest developed releases for the current state of the content builder. So when we get to full 3.8.5 and we enter full preview stages, you should have everything you need to get started. Granted, that's not stopped the community. They're already out there, already testing it. We're seeing feedback coming back. There's even a sort of dedicated channel on the Discord now talking about the content builder, and everyone's already fleshing out the edges and pointing out some things. And we encourage feedback in through this state. But once we get to 3.8.5, we fully expect everyone to really test those features out. I'll stress again, they're not production ready because these are all really brand new, and we don't want to state something ready for production until it is. And hi, Dom. You missed the fun at the beginning. But yeah, we fully encourage you to go and test these things. There are also a lot of maintenance updates and fixes as part of the templates, as part of the other platforms that are in there to ensure the case of everyone's projects that are currently running in the 3.8.4 cycle are still going to be fully supported and working in 3.8.5. There's a few extra fixes and things in there, and we're still hard at work. If any new PRs come in and new features come in that are for the base, they will also be included, but more details on that later. There is one caveat with a issue with the 3D model importing, which we're going to go into a lot of detail what that means. We updated the async library, which we use for importing 3D, and that had some unintended consequences. Not bad. Things still import. Things still work exactly as they do now, but there's a few differences in the way they change things, which you just need to be aware of. It shouldn't affect your project. In fact, in most cases, it didn't affect like the Ascent demo and the models we've got in there. No issue. There's a few rare occasions where models might be slightly turned or they're different how they're importing. You just need to watch out for it. And if you have issues and you're concerned, stay on the release you're on, but these issues already still exist in 3.4. So if you're not encountering them now, you will not get those in the later releases. We've got some exciting news on all the new incoming tutorials, and also an update on the starter kits. And yet again this month we're bringing back good old Aristotle. Nothing can keep this guy down. He really gets in there. He's in the community and helping out. He's donating code. He's managing his own framework, and also now he's building new tools in that framework and taking MonoGame extended to new heights. So between the base MonoGame and all the additional features MonoGame and Extend gives you, as well do the rest of the community who supply plugins and engines. If you've watched the 3D showcase this month, there's some really exciting things going on there. I showed them in the university. I can't show them again here. But anyway, as it comes down to it, we're doing more and streaming more. And in that vein, it's a case of, I shall throw this up now. In the light of we're getting used to how streaming works. So if you're following us on YouTube, then please like and subscribe us on YouTube. And if you're on Twitch, then by all means, hit that bell, get that like, get following it. Everything helps us to grow these channels and also spread the word. And as I remind you also by our presenter today, if indeed you have the ability to, by all means, restream our streams to your channels and grow that even more. We're not going to complain about getting MonoGame in more places. It's as simple as that. But anyway, we've got the Open Hours monthly event, which is what you're at today. Every Friday, one of the team, usually Tom, is out there doing code time, where you can see live actual debugging in code. It really fascinates me when Tom's doing coding, because you get to see his mind working and tweaking over things. You can join us at the university every Thursday, where we're stepping through at the moment the 2D tutorial, and we will no doubt have more featured content there. I also want to get back and do some more stuff on the content builder, so expect maybe some more on-demand streams. And as ever, Dom and I keep talking over and mulling over having a showcase channel where we're demonstrating and showing lots of new things and trying to getting more people in to talk about MonoGame, because why not? So main two stream today is the university on the Thursdays. Without shows continue. So once the 2D tutorials flips out, then we'll be switching over to the shaders and mobile deployment and lots of other things. And Tom's doing coding, fixing, feature picking, mostly bug fixes for Vulkan and things like that. So stay tuned. But he does like to also, he likes to keep his hand in as well with the samples there, so you get to see firsthand the Ascent demo being worked on, or the 3D platformer. But more news on that later. And as ever, it's a case of there was a new book release. It's getting on a few months, which we're still trying to promote as well. So Al Langville has gone out there. He's done a book on MonoGame. There are many other books on MonoGame out there, or even XNA. They're still valid today. But Aaron's our latest and greatest, so we encourage you, if you've not already, to go and check it out. But anyway, back to the star of the show. So, well, two stars, really. We've got lots of videos. We're showcasing a lot of content. Those of you noticed the channels, we did little shorts and things, that previous small things we're going to demonstrate today, and including the first ever look at one of the new tutorials as well. So, what do we have? So, one of the ones that will likely hit first, and with a whole article series on mobile deployment. This is getting your apps ready for mobiles, dealing with different resolutions, dealing with different input styles and gestures and things like that, things that are only available on mobile or touchscreens. And then more importantly, teaching you how to go through the different stores and all the pains and pressures that go in there, and some sort of real life tips of things to watch out for and go through. So how you package your project, how you then get it through to the portal and get on certification, what kind of art assets and things you need for getting those things on. You can sort of work this out for yourself, and myself, I've had to do that for work and other things. It is a pain. So having a tutorial to walk you through and detail what's there, and finding it's invaluable. And then we go into the 2D shaders tutorial. Bear with me. Oh, I need more sleep. the much anticipated 2D shader tutorial, where there's 5 different kind of shader samples that are thrown into this, and once you put them into your project, they are amazing, and they're some more efficient. You can do some of these things sort of in code and try to flipping colors out and doing drawing things. Shaders are just more efficient. So we got both a transition shader, we've got some color swapping. Really exciting one is the vertex manipulation, actually making 2D into 3D, which is funky. I've got some videos on this, so stay tuned. We also got lights, which are always very useful, and also shadows. Just recalling, the shadows are really tricky to do in 2D. I think they're still tricky to do in 3D, never mind 2D. But it's always something to work your way through. And then last but not least, first and foremost, is there also the 3D beginner tutorial, which is sort of the companion to the 2D tutorial. And where the 2D tutorial kicks off, where it gets through all everything you need to do for 2D and getting your game building and publishing. The 3D tutorial then picks up and teaches you what is 3D. All the different parts that are in there, all the different components you need to work with, how you're handling transformations in 3D space, some basic effects, handling 2D UI. My screen's going to fall off. Doing gameplay and also collisions and all those funky things. So it takes the learning from 2D and goes beyond into 3D. You know, granted, this is not going to build you like a Doom or something else, because at the end of the day, this is entry level. It's making sure you understand the concepts and things you need to know to then take forward. But anyway, let's have a look at some of these in live. So here we are. There's a nice transition effect. We've got a few seconds of these. So you can see different transition effects all done through shaders, flipping things through and showing different ways you can apply transitions. We've also got like the color shade blending effect. We're actually changing and blending colors through shaders, and different things you can actually do to actually affect those, but also driving them through shaders. On top of that, then we got this. I can't say this always makes me giggle when I'm looking at it. Applying 3D effects to 2D systems and having them present and do things. And you know, although it is 3D, it's doing it in a 2D way. Really, really funky. And just lots of fun. Is that transition? It's just left running. I must have been playing. Oh, yes, sorry. I forget. No, that's actually showing. If we go back to that there and play there, it's actually applying 3D on the game view, having a little funky effect while you're playing. Then on top of that, we've also got lights. So you can see here different lights maneuver around the scene, applying different effects. You can change how those lights are working, and also then how the 2D and 3D effects are blending together for how they work. So it's almost taking the 3D light with the 2D space and applying it in 3D. It's funky. You will learn. And also finally is shadows. Now these are a little harder to see, but you can see the shadows being affected from the 2 lights on the wall. They're casting shadows within the scene, and you can play with this to your heart's content of how your project will want to work with it. It's just fun. And by the way, Chris, you made this game very challenging. Having this bat wandering around the scene and trying to record this in effect to show the shadows, it's just, I shall hold you to account. I can see your face. He's in the green room in the background. I can see his face laughing at me. But hey ho. So that's the 2D shader effects tutorial, which are coming up. And also, more importantly, we also have the 3D tutorial. And well, this is a lot of people first time seeing this. So this is taking the game Star Fox and recreating it in MonoGame in 3D. So you have your 3D ship flying down to the 2D plane, everything else is coming towards you. There's a whole conversational system bit in this. There's damage mechanics, there's shooting. I'm actually very terrible at playing this game. This is controlled predominantly on the keyboard and mouse, but also supports gamepad. It's got power-ups, shooting power-ups. And also you might notice there's different waves of enemies and how they're coming in, different ways of shooting you. This teaches you all the tricks you need to work in the 3D world, so you can then go and take this and build your own 3D game for it. And sorry, but the most boring game over screen ever. But anyway, all of these tutorials themselves, they will be available to sponsors primarily when they launch. We have a new dedicated sponsors only area, so there's a private area where if you've donated to MonoGame at least the sprite batch level and above, then you get the full flavor of what these tutorials are. We need to give back. We've been investing in all the things going on here. We've been using all the funding that we've got, so that it's better that we pay back. So those who are giving us the funding are getting first access to all of this fantastic content. If you're not a sponsor to MonoGame already, then by all means, please go there, donate, and help MonoGame out. We are an open source framework, but we do need funding to be able to keep progressing and doing all this content and all these tutorials out there. Speaking of which, then the actual 3D platformer kit is still progressing. It's getting very interesting close. We're using this at the moment in anger to sort of test out the new content builder system and fleshing out all the little rough edges. I think someone already commented that there was a minor issue with asset caching, so it wasn't rebuilding in certain scenarios. So we'll get on that and address it before the release. And trying everything out, and we're trying our best to break this. So even in preview, this is going to be, quality. But we're just not going to put our hang our hat on it and say, you should be going out and shipping games with this yet. This is a trial by fire because the asset system is quite critical to projects. I will stress again, as I've done many times on other streams, that while this is changing how we build content, and you can ship your tools to other asset providers to build content for you, it does not change your game. Content.load will work the same as it does today as it will to do tomorrow. So a lot of this is not about changing how your game consumes content. It's getting you more to think about how you package your content, your assets, how you build them, how you organize them to make it more efficient so that it makes your life easier when you're managing this content. But also, no more tools. You can extend the content system as much as you like, as hard as you like, write extensions, write additional functions, submit PRs for how we should improve the system. And it's no longer locked in. Everyone has the same power as everyone else. And another sneak peek. So Dom has been working on a new card game tutorial. This is a porting from an old XNA sample, but this has been beefed up like we've done with all the other content. And there's new layout. There's some AI players in there for play. You can play blackjack and cards with. There's sort of transition effects and lots of funky things in there that you expect from a card game. Card games seem to be really powerful and used to great effect and offer a lot of things in there. Why is this going? Thank you, Tom, for changing the slides. And even this is going to have local multiplayer as well for playing two-player card games. So hopefully Dom, when he's got his voice back and he can talk, then he'll be able to talk more about this. But it's all incoming. Okay, so that's all the sort of showcase stuff we've got to talk about. Let's see, Tom. Oh, there we go. Anything else you want to add to that, Tom? So before we jump into the next scene.
Hey guys. No, these tutorials look awesome. That's something that we've been wanting for a while, is to add more variety of these things. Better starter kits, better tutorials. Try to get more content for people to begin, because a lot of times people don't know where to start. We kind of MonoGame and even XNA gave people a blank slate, right? Like, here's a blank slate, do whatever. And a lot of people need some guidance and where to begin. And these tutorials and the starter kits definitely help with that, where you can see, we said it before, you can say, well, like, this is very similar to the kind of game that I want to make, and you can transform that into what you want to make. But you start with something exciting, not an empty scene. And this is what just about every framework and engine does. We've just not had a concerted effort to do that in the past. So with this, we're going to have some really good starting points for people, and we're just going to build on those. So these are just the first sets of them. As we move forward, we're going to build more of them. And at some point, we'll have a pretty good library of starter kits that give people, and tutorials that give people a good starting point and good education into how these things are done, at a low level, at a code level, right? Which is something that's a little lacking these days, I guess. So yeah, these are all awesome.
Yep. Right. Well, in that case, let's trip over here now. So, and I'll bring him on the stage. Chris,
Hey.
welcome back, our avid web developer. If we ever have a web problem, we call Chris, and Chris is like, yeah, sure, I can do that. It's fine. I'll turn around your crazy demands. But you're now you're the sole maintainer for the MonoGame extended framework, or do you have other people helping you out with that? Go on, do you want to take over and sort of talk yourself in?
Oh, sure. Well, I had like a whole slide thing prepared. You want me to just jump into that?
Oh, well, I can switch over that. This is sort of a thing. So, fine.
Oh no, I mean, or I can just do this.
Well, tell you, we'll hand this stage over to you, and you can take the floor and have at it.
Okay. All right. So it should be showing up. But my name is Christopher Whitley, or Chris Whitley. I prefer Chris. Everyone knows me as Aristotle in the MonoGame community, though. Here's my social links because I've been told I need to promote my social links. So there they are. If anyone needs them, go follow me there. And as Simon was saying, I am currently the lead maintainer of MonoGame Extended. MonoGame Extended is a community developed project. It's not part of the MonoGame Foundation. I have to specify that because it has MonoGame in the name. But it is a library that implements things that you would commonly implement in MonoGame. So things like 2D cameras, screen resolution policies, different type of basic collision actors, not like full physics engines or anything like that. But just like your common things that you're going to re-implement in everything that you do in every game you develop with MonoGame, MonoGame Extended provides like a base for that. So it just takes what MonoGame already has and just adds some extension on top of it to give you a quicker start to prototyping and building your game out. I am currently the lead maintainer of MonoGame Extended. I'm not the only. I don't like to say I'm the only maintainer or developer of it, though, because it is a community developed effort. Anyone in the community is welcome to come in and submit PRs and add things to it that make sense. Obviously, we would go through the PRs and only approve those that align with the goals of the project. MonoGame Extended, there's the links for it if anyone needs any of those. Really bad at promoting social stuff. And then I just had the slide for Ember, which we don't have to really show that. So that's just Ember. Yeah. And that was it for that. My chat went away. There we go. So today we're talking about Ember, which is something I've been developing or was developing for the past better part of the past year. It's still at a very early stage in its release. It's at a 1.0 release. It was made as an effort to update the particle system that's in MonoGame Extended. So MonoGame Extended itself has a code-first approach to creating particles and particle effects. That system itself is based on a library called Mercury Particle Engine. Mercury Particle Engine was an open source project that eventually was put into like an archive mode, not updated anymore. And then that was ported over into MonoGame by Jag, I believe. And then from there, either Jag and Dylan worked together. Dylan was the original creator and maintainer of MonoGame Extended. I think they worked together, or Dylan took Jag's code and ported that into MonoGame Extended to provide a particle system for MonoGame Extended. And then this past year, one of my goals was to take that particle system and update it and bring it kind of up to date with some of the new modern .NET features, using things like spans, just for better performance, lower allocation of particles for garbage collection, things. I don't want to get too technical, but just to bring the performance of it up and to bring it up to more modern .NET type coding. Along with that, Ember was developed alongside of it as a visual editor that you can use to create your particle effects visually within the editor itself. And the cool thing about the editor is it's actually built inside of MonoGame itself. So the editor is just a MonoGame project. It's using IMGUI as the interface to interact and change values and things, but everything you see in the editor that's being rendered is being rendered within MonoGame. So what you see in the editor is what you're going to see when you import it into your game. So it's not like it's being rendered using something like a DirectX backend or an OpenGL backend or Vulkan or like some specific type of backend. It's being rendered directly using MonoGame. So you'll be able to see exactly what you're going to get when you bring it into your game. So with that said, let's switch over to actually showing what Ember is. So on the MonoGame website, not MonoGame website, I'm sorry, the MonoGame Extended website, if you go to it and you go to Docs and then Tools and then Ember Editor, there's a manual in here for getting started with Ember, which includes the download link, which will take you to the GitHub page to download. And from here, you'll just go to the release, download it for whichever system you have. Currently, right now, I only have Linux, Windows, ARM 64-based processor Windows, and x64-based processor Windows. The Mac build is having some issues that I'm trying to sort out. So right now, there's currently not a Mac build. However, you can download the source and just run it from source, and it will work on a Mac. It's just creating that Mac app bundle is having some issues right now that I'm trying to sort out. But once you download the build and unzip it, this is what you get. It's just a standard MonoGame game is what it looks like, called Ember. When you run that, let's go ahead and launch it. It's a blank canvas at first. So when you start out, you'll file new project. You'll give your project a name. We'll just call this like a demo, and then choose where you want to save it. Let's go with my desktop. There we go. And you can create a project directory. Creating the project directory just takes the project name and creates a directory and then puts the project within that directory. That's all it does. Which just gives you this blank slate. And I realize that this is not a very intuitive start to using this tool. Again, this is first release, and I'm really looking for a lot of feedback. So please go use this. Please provide any feedback you can. But once you get this, you can add a new emitter. So you have your particle emitter, and then you just select whatever texture you want to use for the emitter. So we'll go in here into select texture, and I'm going to select the splash image, which is going to give me this. And it's auto triggered by default. You can cut that off if you want to disable auto trigger, and then it only triggers when you click your mouse around. But we're going to turn auto trigger back on, and I'm going to hover over the splash image real quick just to show that this image, the source rectangle for it is 256 by 256, and it contains 4 separate images. So if you have a texture atlas that has all of your different particle effects within that texture atlas, you can come in here. And so I know the top left corner is going to be 128. And so now we just have just that single image instead of the 4 images being used. So you can use texture atlases with this. You don't have to use a single image, and using a texture actually.
Yeah. Hey Chris, your screen's not on the stream.
Oh,
not sure why. We're seeing a browser window.
That fix it?
Yep, that's fixed.
Okay, cool. Sorry about that. That was weird. So I'll start over then. So this is Ember. This is what it looks like. When you first get it, it's a blank window with just the file menus at the top, and you would go to new project and create a new project from there, which just gives you this blank slate to work with. From here, you would do add emitter to create a new particle emitter, and you would select the texture for your particle emitter, and just kind of go back through what I just did. I'm going to pick this texture that I used, the splash texture, and if I hover over it, I can see the actual texture that's being used. Like I said, the texture it has 4 separate particle textures within it, and I can go in here and adjust the source rectangle so it's only using one specific part of that texture instead of the full one. So using a texture atlas for this is actually recommended, just to reduce texture swapping when you're working with particles. And then from here, it's just a matter of going through and playing around with the different values to create your particle. There's you have like a max capacity for how many particles an emitter can emit total. Once it reaches that capacity, it won't emit anymore. So if I set this to like 10, you see it won't emit past 10. But if I set this to 100,000, I can do 100,000 particles. You have your, let me put this back at 1,000. You have lifespan for how long a particle lasts. So we can do 5 seconds, and now they last longer than just 1 second. There's render orders for front to back or back to front. You're not really going to notice that right this second. And then offsets for where the emitter actually emits from the particle effect itself. There's different profile types you can use. So right now, this is using the point profile. Point profile just does all particles that are released at a random heading from the center of the particle itself. There's box, so we can do like a 500 by 500 box, and now all the particles are released filled within a box itself. There's also box uniform, which is sort of the same thing as box. The difference between box and box uniform is that it will try to uniformly distribute the particles along all of the edges. So it's not so much as a random distribution along the edges. And then other basic ones like circle, point, circle, line, ring, and spray. So for this specific one, for this sample that I'm doing right now, we're going to use spray. And what spray does is it gives you a cone, and I'm going to put this at 1, so it's going down. And then I'm going to give the cone of about we'll do 2. And I'm going to reduce the scale of this a little bit. Just do 0.5. So you can see it emits in a cone shape for the spray. So that's how spray works. So those are profiles, those are properties. Then we have the release parameters. So release parameters are the values that are given to the emitter at the time a particle is released, and then the particles inherit those initially. So you have your quantity for how many is initially released, and in any of these values can be a random value, between a random or a constant value. So you can choose to constantly do 50 particles every release, or you can choose to constantly do 1, or you can do a random amount between one number and another one. So all of these parameters can either be constant or random. So just to kind of show you playing around with this, let's go in here and make this like a bluish color, like that. Let's reduce the scale down a little bit more. That looks good. I'm going to leave the rotation on, and the mass. Mass is actually affected by modifiers, which we'll go over next. But I think for now, this looks good. I'm going to leave auto trigger on, and I'm going to turn it to 0.1 so that it's constantly emitting every 0.1 seconds, like this. And then we'll go over into the modifiers. So modifiers, the way they work is every particle that's emitted from a particle emitter, the particle runs through a modifier. Thanks for that, Prom. So for this specific one, I'm going to put in an age modifier. And age modifiers, the way they work is they modify the particle kind of in a LARP fashion, a linear interpolation fashion based off of the interpolators that it has. So, for instance, we have this scale interpolator attached to this age modifier, and we can start this out at a 0 scale, and then bring that up to like a 5 scale, or like a 0 to 1 over the age of the particle, and it does it over the age. So if I go over into the lifespan here and increase this to 5, and then do 1 here, you can see that the longer a particle is alive, the longer it takes that interpolation to happen. So it interpolates over the age. Say we have age modifier. There's various other modifiers. There's circle containers, which will contain all the particles within a circle. So if we did that, let's just turn off this age modifier, go into our circle. We'll give it a radius of about 500. And I'm going to bump up this number here so that we can see a little bit better what's going on. There we go. Sorry, I had it on inside. So all the particles are contained within the circle. You have a restitution coefficient, which is going to determine how elastic your particles are when they hit the boundary of the circle. So you'll see like now when they hit, let's lower this boundary some. Yeah, so as they hit the boundary of the circle, you'll see they start bouncing off of that, and the coefficient just determines how bouncy they are when they hit the edges there. But yeah, we have circle containers, rectangle and rectangle loop containers. Those are both similar. They're going to be rectangular containers. The loop container, however, the way it works is when a particle reaches the edge of the container, it loops back around. So let me make this a little bit smaller so you can see. But as each particle is reaching like the edge of the container here, it's looping back around to the other side and coming through. Yeah, lot of. I could go on. This would take forever to go through everything. But a lot of different options for modifiers to go through, to play around with, to create particle effects. A lot of different ways you can do things with it. Specifically, just to show something that I worked on yesterday as kind of like a part of the demo. Let me delete these modifiers. Is to show with this specific one that we have here, if I do like a spray at a one direction, I think it was one spread. And let's put the left hand back at 1, and I'm going to do a linear gravity modifier, which pulls the particles down in a direction. Right now it's set for 1 on the y-axis, so it's pulling down. And I can increase the strength of that to, let's say, 200 or 500. And you see the strength gets stronger as you go. But we'll leave that at 100, and then we'll add like an opacity fast fade modifier here. And I'm actually going to reset my source rectangle, and we're going to do this at 0.5, 0.5. Nope, not that. That was not 0.5. 0.5. There we go. And change it to front to back. Maybe 2.5. And we'll do a lifespan at 2. And so with something like this, you can create, the coloring's wrong. I don't like the color of it. But you can start creating things like waterfalls to go in the background. This is a quick example of creating a waterfall to go in the background. So you can do things like that. There's also in the Ember project itself, and let me clone this just to show it. In the Ember project itself, there are samples that you can look at. I probably should have done this. For instance, there's a smoke sample, and these are samples that were part of the original Mercury particle editor, imported over into this to be used as samples here as well. But it has like the smoke sample. So here's an example of creating like a smoke particle effect that you can use to, like, right now it's following my mouse around, but you can have that following something in your game, some entity, or to create a fog type scenario somewhere. Another example is this is one for creating. It's a quick spark sample for creating sparks. So there's a lot of variation you can do with this. It would take way more time than I have to go over absolutely everything that's possibly in this that you can do. This is really a go play with it, get your hands dirty, create cool effects that you can use in your game. And just to kind of wrap this up, just because there's so much to do, all of the stuff that's in here, all of the properties for everything, the profiles, the release parameters, all the different modifiers, and the interpolators that it has.
One quick question came in: is that is there a way to stop the emission based on the number of particles already emitted, rather than on the time passed?
There's not a way to cap it on the number of particles emitted unless you cap the capacity itself. So once a particle gets emitted, so there's the concept for the workflow for this is that you have a particle effect, which is just a container itself. The particle effect has multiple emitters. So right now we've just been seeing like one single emitter, but I can come in here and I can add a second emitter. Let's do. So I can add like a second emitter in here, and I can offset that emitter somewhere. So each individual emitter itself has a capacity. So I could do a capacity for this specific emitter at 5,000, and it's going to emit a lot more than one that I have at only 100. So you can see like that one keeps emitting, but the sparks at the bottom, they stop emitting because it reaches capacity. So that's really the only way to limit it by the number of particles. If you don't want to limit it by the actual lifespan itself. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I hope that answered the question. I'm really sorry.
Probably food for thought for future enhancements.
Yeah, and I'm always looking for feedback, so please go open a PR or an issue. Give me suggestions. This is the initial release of this, and it can only go up from here.
Yeah. Don piped up and said there's a graffiti game in there just waiting to come out.
Oh yeah. Like I said, it's all the things you can do in here. This is all done from a code first approach. This is just an editor, so you can do it visually because not everyone wants to do this with code. So if you go to the MonoGame Extended website, on the Ember page here, it has a link into it, and you can also go to features. Where's it at? Particles and the quick start guide, and it has all the documentation has been updated for the particle system, so you can come in here and read how to do everything code first if you wanted to. Here's an example of a fire effect that was created as part of that, showing you how to. It walks you through things like setting up to follow your mouse, and then once you get through the quick start guide and kind of like understand kind of like how things are organized or the workflow of the particle effects, you can go through the different documentation for things like the emission profiles. So if you come in here, it's going to step you through all of the different emission profiles, what they mean, what the different parameters for each one mean. I mean, this is fully extensive documentation on everything. So if there's any specific part of the editor that you have a question on, what does this property do? How does it affect the particles I'm going to create, like over time or anything like that? All of it's fully documented. I made sure this documentation was as comprehensive as I possibly could. So hopefully you go read it if you have questions. And if the documentation doesn't cover something, please let me know so I can make sure the documentation does cover it. Because for particle systems and a particle editor, there's so much information to go through with it. And I try to get everything documented as much as possible to help you out with just picking this up and getting started. But the last thing I did want to show is that this was a particle editor built for the particle system that's in MonoGame Extended, which means you somehow need to go from what you create in here in Ember into your game using MonoGame Extended. So I'm going to open a project real quick just to show you. No. So this is just a really simple particle effect that I worked on last night. It's not really anything crazy, but it's just kind of like a glimmer sparkle effect kind of coming down, kind of like what you might see through like lights coming through like forest trees or something in a fantasy setting. Just like little sparkles coming down. So if I wanted to take this and put it in my game, obviously you would save your project. So save project. And then I have a game set up already here, so I didn't have to waste the time doing everything. This game is just a standard MonoGame desktop GL game with the MonoGame Extended and the MonoGame Extended content pipeline NuGet packages added. So you would add both of those. You only need the content extended, the MonoGame Extended content pipeline, if you plan to use the pipeline, the MGCB editor, to import your particle effects. I have not tested this with the new Code First editor yet. Unfortunately, I haven't had time to play around with that, so I can't really speak to how it's going to work in there at this moment. Technically, it should work the same from the Code First approach, but I need to play around with it some more just to make sure everything's good and I don't need to change anything on my end. So right now, my only recommendation is that if you're going to use it with the content pipeline, the MGCB editor itself right now is what's supported. And then from there, I just have a really basic game setup. And just to show you the game, let's do .NET Run. And of course, it's going to take like 10 years to build it. Come on. Okay, so this is just like a basic, what you might have in a game, like a forest scene for a side-scrolling not beat 'em up, but like a side-scrolling game, adventure game. But it's just a 2D scene that you might have, and you might start thinking, you want to add something like this shimmer effect here that you created in the particle effects. You want it coming down from the trees, right? Just to give some kind of ambience to the environment or something. So we created the effect here within Ember, and we saved that. When that gets saved, that creates a Ember file itself. And the Ember file is just an XML file. So if you ever needed to, you could come in here and you can edit everything manually yourself if you need to here instead of using the editor. But it just creates this Ember file that gets used. You would want to make sure that the file itself is copied over. So .NET MGCB editor. Let's open the content pipeline or the content editor. I'm sorry, my computer's a little slow. So here I just have the file added in, the Glimmer editor added in, and I have it set to copy. I'm just going to copy it over, and I have the image that it uses as well, and that's just set to copy over as well. So both of these are just going to copy. And I'm doing this through the editor so that it's copied over as part of my whole content pipeline workflow. There's other ways to copy this over. You know, you're doing it through your CS Proj or whatever. I prefer to do it through the.
Oh, we seem to have lost Chris briefly there. Hopefully we'll get him back shortly. He did say his machine was running a little slow.
Right about now, he's probably screaming at his computer. It's like, oh no! So
I mean, it's just awesome seeing that. And
yeah. So if anybody has questions, before Chris gets back, let's start preparing those. I mean, particle systems are one of those hard things, and it's funny how I always note, it's funny how there's lots of third-party tool kits for 3D modeling and for models and for animation and for sound and for graphics and for UIs, but there's very few particle system kind of extensions or engines that you can just use. In game development, for almost everything, there is an engine or something you can get to do something. Lighting engines, rendering engines, things like that. But for particles, there just doesn't seem like that has ever been the case. It seems like every game seems to roll their own system of some sort. So, hey, Chris, are you back?
Yeah,
I think so. Am I back?
All right. Well, you can continue where you left off. We jumped in.
Yeah, we'll give you the stage to get back so you can get back to your demonstration.
Okay, yeah. It'd be quick. Sorry about that. I'm not really sure what happened. I didn't lose connection, or my computer didn't die or anything. I'm not sure what happened there. But just to show real quick, I'm not sure what the last thing you heard me say was.
I think you were just showing the MGBC edit and you're importing it and setting everything to copy. Then you were going to start doing stuff in here.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So using the MGB editor just to copy the assets over. And then in your game, you just need to have a particle effect field that you're going to hold your particle effect in. And these are done through importing the MonoGame extended particles namespace. So just have the particle effect field. And then they're just like you have with, I try to keep things the same way that you would do in the .NET ecosystem. So like you have with the JSON serializer and the XML serializer and things like that are part of .NET. For this, you have a particle effect serializer, and it uses the same conventions of just a deserialized method. There's also a serialized method if you want to save it through code as well. You can make your own editor if you wanted to. So just deserialize, we're going to give it the path to the file that we're loading. And we also have to pass in the content manager because it does need to load the image file in that's being used. So it does use MonoGame's content manager for that. And then we'll just give it a position. The reason I'm setting a position here in the code is because in the editor itself, the editor has the particle always centered to the window so you can see what you're doing. So once you import this into your project, just position it through code where you would want it to go. Most likely for some particle effects, you're going to have a specific position where you won't like a burst of emissions or something coming out of some object anyway. So you're already going to adjust the position yourself. So just remember to put the position where you need it. Then we tell it to update in the update loop. And then in the draw loop, it already has an extension for the spray batch. So you just give it the actual effect itself. And that's it. That's all you have to do. So deserialize it, position it, update it, and draw it. So if we save that and then run the game, and hopefully it doesn't crash my stream this time doing it.
Sure, then that wouldn't happen a second time.
No. There we go. And hopefully this is coming through on the stream. But now you can see that glimmer effect is, and I've purposely done this in a way so that it's done behind layers in the background. So the background is 2 different layers. There's a mid layer and a background layer, kind of like a parallax effect. And the particle effect sits between them. So it's actually behind the tree. So that's just showing that because this integrates itself in with the sprite batch itself, you can layer where the particles themselves show up within your sprite batch calls. So it's not like its own call that you have to like do some type of layer management and how you're going to do it. It integrates directly with sprite batch.
Yep. Got another question come in saying, can the particle texture be modified programmatically between emissions? Imagine a smoke emitter moving a shadow area while emitting, thus producing darker smoke.
Yeah. You can. So like anything that you can do in the editor, you can do in code. And that means you can change any of the properties or anything at runtime. So if like right now, so this is a yellowish particle. If I wanted to, I could come in here and I could take the glimmer effect, get the emitters, could be parameters, color, and we're going to do a new color parameter, and I'm actually going to do random, so I'll do color.red, and oh no, it's a vector 3, sorry, I forgot about that. New vector 3, we'll do red and I'll look to green, red and green. Sounds good to me. You can actually just not have to have long names like that and just import the namespace. There we go. So you can edit it at any time, at any point during runtime. And so now if I run this, if I'm remembering my parameters correctly, come on, run. Yeah, look, now they're all incorrect colors. And they're incorrect colors. That's my fault. That's incorrect colors because this is HSL. So that's the problem there. Okay, I thought I had. Okay, so that's something I'm going to need to add to make this a little bit easier to use is using the HSL color as the parameter, which I thought you could, but I guess not. So what is red in HSL? That's... Sorry, my brain's kind of freezing for a second. So red would be 0, 255. So 0, 1, and 1. And then blue would be 174. There we go. That should do it. No, okay. Sorry, this is me messing up during live coding because those are HSL colors. But yeah, I'm getting my colors wrong right now, but you can change any of the properties at runtime for any of it. So you can do it dynamically if that answers that question. I was really hoping I could show this working the way I wanted it to, but it's not playing nicely with me.
So I think you've shown it actually working there, so you have actually changed the color in code.
Yeah, it should have ended up something like this, but I can't get my values right for the parameter off the top of my head right now. But it should have ended up looking something like this instead of all white. And I think that's because actually that should be 0. No, okay, yeah. I'm having I'm having a brain fog at the moment right now. But yeah, any of the parameters you can change at runtime at any point. So hopefully that answers that.
Okay. Let's jump back over to the stage, as it were.
Okay.
Here we are. And sorry, there we go. We're all back, as it were. Oh. Comments, Tom?
Okay.
Oh.
I can jump in.
Can you still hear me, Simon?
Oh,
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. I'll fix. You talk while I fix the thing because it broke it again.
Oh, you're good. Yeah. I just realized I'm looking at. I had the chat pulled up on my phone so I could see it while I was talking, and I just realized I kind of answered the question, but not really.
Sure.
John specifically asked if the particle texture can be modified between emissions. And the short answer still is yes. The actual texture itself can be modified. You just need to be careful at what's like the texture itself, at what point you modify that, because you don't want to end up in a situation if you have a null texture, it just won't draw anything. But the texture itself can be dynamically changed as well.
Fun debate.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the other thing is this is open source. You have access to all the code. Anything that doesn't work, you can always fix or suggest, which is the benefit. We run into the problem with, we do a lot of game porting and we deal with a lot of other engines, and it's always a pain when you can't change something, when it just works the way that it works, or it's, open source, but it's such a gigantic code base that it becomes impossible to, it's a Herculean task to work on anything. So having something like this that is straightforward, it's C#, which is nice to work with, and can be easily modified, is great. That's a superpower that we have here, is that, anything here can be modified to fit your needs. And oftentimes, like when we work on projects, like when we're porting games from MonoGame titles to console, a lot of times we'll go in there and just modify MonoGame. Like if something is slow and it's doing in, like this one happens all the time. Almost nobody uses the rotation features in Sprite Batch. They use a lot of Sprite Batch placement, but very little rotation. So, but it's always calculating or checking to see, do I need to rotate? Do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? And oftentimes we cut out that chunk of code just to save a little bit more performance because we can, and that's something you're able to do here. And even with this stuff, like if you want the particle texture to work a certain way, you could go make that change or offer a suggestion and see if something can be added to the framework. So that's the nice thing about open source, is that you always have everything and you can make any sort of change you need. Let's see, any other questions? I guess so. The stuff that you're demoing today, that's all live now. Is that correct, Chris?
Yeah. This was released about a month or so ago.
Okay. I checked. Okay, yeah. So I saw the website. It's up. Cool.
Yeah, it's all live. It's all available. I did know there's a blog post on the MonoGame Extended website about it when it was released. I did note that this is the initial release of the Ember editor. The underlying particle system itself is pretty much finalized. The editor is at a 1.0 release. For feedback right now in MonoGame Extended itself, my attention is being shifted to refactoring and redoing the entire tile map system in MonoGame Extended. So a lot of my effort is going to be there now. So the particle editor itself is getting basically like maintenance updates for the moment. Right. But if there's any like major feature requests that need to be put in, just open an issue.
Yeah.
I'll let you know.
The trouble of solo indie devs working on the side, you have to decide where your focus is, right? You can't do everything all at once. Some people try, but at a certain point you can't handle it. So, but it makes sense. I mean, it seems like it's at a good point right now for people to jump in there and do stuff with it, and get feedback on that. Let's see. I guess was there something else that we were supposed to cover earlier, Simon, that we didn't?
No, we managed to get through everything. Probably not as much detail as we would have liked to, but
Right.
I mean, someone already commented saying that they saw the 3D tutorial and were like, "Yay!"
Yeah, I mean some of that was the first time I've seen some of that. I haven't been keeping in the loop on the 3D tutorial, but that thing looks fantastic. I think it'll help a lot of people getting started. The Ascent stuff is still in development, but it's a lot more advanced than that. So it's going to be kind of like we designed that one with the idea of it's more of a flagship kind of high end thing, whereas simpler tutorials are always nicer, right? Especially for people getting started that don't need that what we're doing there. And like the 3D platformer is going to be great as well. Like it's definitely going to be some really cool stuff coming out once we get these tutorials out there, which right now, speaking of that, right now our bottleneck is getting 385 out the door. We're super close. This Friday, I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do on code time, but my guess is some combination of doing a little bit more exploratory stuff on the content builder because we need to get that nailed down. Tomas replied to me about the Vulkan stuff, and it's like it's working better, but there's still a couple of issues we're running into. So I'm going to do a little investigation there. If we nail those two things down, and we'll see. Maybe I like to try to keep the code times to like one subject and not jump around too much. We'll see how it happens. I'd also like to pull in one of the community members had submitted an F audio implementation specifically for Mac, Linux, and Windows. So I think we're going to try. I need to sit down and. It seems like maybe they didn't test it thoroughly, so there's some issues. So I was going to maybe pull that down, take a look at it, see what needs to be fixed, because that's the last real piece before we have like a complete version of the runtime, right? Where we have audio, graphics, and inputs all working, so that you can deploy the Vulkan back into Mac and Linux and have that work. So that's really the only thing that's keeping us from releasing it is trying to make sure that we have the new Vulkan backend, the new DX12 backend, complete enough that people can actually start using it to some extent. Not to ship, but to test.
All the platforms, the builder, the DX12, the Vulkan, they have to at least work with our samples and work with the things we've got in a quality level that we accept, because we're not going to ship anything out the door that's we don't feel is ready. But saying that, we want to get this out the door.
Exactly. We've been trying to get this out the door for the last couple of months, and things have not been cooperating. It's taken longer to deal with Vulkan issues. The content builder hasn't had as much work on it lately as we needed to. There's been a lot of distractions lately. That said, I'm committed to making sure this ships, before December. I'm going to get this thing done one way or another. So it just has to happen. So yeah, a lot of work going on there.
I mean, this is something that all of the foundation members are pitching in as many hours as we can get into it. The only thing to do ever speed this up would be more resource, but we're maxed out from a funding perspective at the moment. So
yeah, that's a whole other thing. But yeah, I mean, and also of course the holidays are coming, so sometimes I guess for regular work, the holidays are like, yeah, I'm not working, but for this kind of work where we kind of do it at nights and evenings and weekends and whenever we have time, maybe that's a positive. Who knows? You have more time because you're not at work. So yeah, we're gonna get it done.
Yep. It looks like we haven't got any more questions in.
Nope. And we're
already 10 minutes over, so we should probably call this to an end for this month. So
yep.
Stay tuned. You'll see the university on tomorrow on Thursday, and Tom will be back on Friday. And as ever, we're trying to stream more. And I still got to nail Tom Dom down to actually get the showcase channel up and running, because where we want to get people in, we want to interview proper developers and showcase their projects and things like that. So if you have a project in mind or something you're working on, you'd like to shout about it more on the MonoGame channels, we're here to help promote you as much as you're here to help MonoGame to be successful. We're only successful together in this aspect. Okay, we're
cool.
I'd like to jump in the last second. And do you want to say this, Tom? Because we've got a store.
Yeah, but I had just replied. So yeah, that's great. I just asked them to email us at admin@monogame.net, and we'll be able to get back to them on that, because that's always cool.
Yeah, I mean, the MonoGame's still at the moment, but again, we are hearing more and more now from several other educational establishments, whether universities or high schools or colleges, where they want to use MonoGame as a C# based programming course. And one of the things we have talked about in the meeting this month is that we need to find a way to build a sort of an educational pack for MonoGame to make it easier for people to pick up. The 2D tutorial course is a fantastic resource, but obviously when you're teaching, you need to build lots of other materials and all the things you can show. So we're always willing to, if there are educators out there who want to, you can have more tighter connections with MonoGame. Email us on the admin address, and we will get it back to you, because one of the sort of crying shames that was XNA is XNA just to the point of breaking through. I attended several universities to give talks and things where XNA was being used as an education resource, and then the carpet was pulled away. And those courses still continue because XNA was still available, but there is no better way to sort of educate young minds than to give them really cool, fun things to do when they're learning these things. And games is an easy target, not only because you're learning programming, because it also involves all the other disciplines that most of the other game universities or universities are involved with. So you've got artists involved, you've got musicians involved, you've got creative designers involved, people who want to get into level design or want to do other physics-based interactions and simulations. MonoGame as a programming language, using C# as a programming language, is a fantastic resource for that. When I used to tour universities, I saw some really, really cool things. And students need these kind of resources to really excel and get out there. So I digress. We're waffling on. So thanks to everyone. We will drop in a quick reminder for those who are watching. So if you're on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Any help and support you can for the channel or sharing it out there is greatly appreciated, because it helps extend our reach. And for those who are on Twitch, make sure you hit that bell and do give us a like and let us know what you're doing. Get on the Discord. The 2D and 3D showcases are fantastic resources for what people are doing, as well as the Developer Gyres channel, where people can document about all the quick wins or the troubles they've had. But above all, just get out there, be communicative, and share what you do. That's what we're here for. And if you need us at MonoGame to help promote you, we will. Any last comments, Chris or Tom?
No, none for me, except for Bailey.
I think we're good.
Yeah, I think we know where to find you. So thank you, everyone.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Yeah, this is MonoGame, and we will be out.